Hi, I'm Julie Simpson, and I'm part of the Bill Glass as well. I've just spent a wonderful weekend here in Fresno. God's been amazing in my life. I love doing this ministry because it continues to keep me reminded of what He's done. By allowing me to tell my story over and over again, it just always amazes me that I'm even still here. I kicked around show business for about 15 years. I wanted desperately to be a professional singer. So I rolled on down from Spokane down to California. I was one of the nuts that rolled down. And started my career in San Francisco doing musical theater and nightclub work. After a couple of years there, I headed on down to LA, and I did some commercials and TV and continued to work with bands and musical theater. But while I was kicking around show business for 15 years, it kicked me back. I would, of course, have to attend all the parties, and so at the parties there were men, and there was alcohol and men, and drugs and men, and I just couldn't stay away from the men. So that really took a toll in my life. I took a lot of prisoners with me. It wasn't just me that suffered through all of this. My folks had to watch me go into deep depression. I was an alcoholic and used drugs, and tried to protect them a little bit with all the partying that I did. But they knew that I wasn't living a right life. But we didn't talk about it much. I also ended up with 3 husbands. Second husband was abusive because, you know, if you're feeling like garbage, you go and hook up with garbage. So I didn't feel good enough about myself to connect with a man who would treat me good. I also gave up a daughter at the age of 19. It was the first time I got pregnant. I got pregnant first time out of the gate, didn't even get to practice. And I had a daughter who I gave up for adoption at the age of 19. At the age of 24, I got pregnant again, and I ended up aborting that child because I'd gone from the Bay Area to LA to live. I was going to have the baby and raise it by myself, but I ended up on the doorstep of Planned Parenthood, and they, for 3 hours, grilled me and convinced me that I was there to have a career and not a baby. So I agreed to have an abortion. Then my third marriage came along. I finally got pregnant with our first child, and I miscarried that child. So I had 3 losses. So by the time my first boy came along, I couldn't bond with him for 2 years. That brought on a lot of depression. I was depressed for 10 years of my life. I was on and off medication. They told me I was bipolar. They told me I was manic depressive. They told me I was borderline manic depressive. They told me I was chronically depressed and hypomanic. And every time they thought of a new word for it, they'd call me up and give it to me. I was told I'd be on medication for the rest of my life. So here I just made a huge mess of my life. I didn't want to live anymore. I was suicidal. Yet on the outside, I looked like I had it all going on. I'd married my third husband, who was a fireman, had a beautiful home, a sports car out in the driveway, a nice big diamond ring on my hand, everything I could want, clothes. My career was starting to take off, and I could barely get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to live. But then one day I found myself up in the balcony of a church. It was a last resort because I'd tried psychotherapy, I'd tried self-help books, I'd tried channeling, diet, exercise, everything I could think of to get out of depression. So I finally decided, well, I'm living on Baptist Row, which was my neighborhood, so I might as well go to the church. So I was up in the balcony one day, and they gave the invitation, and I basically dared God to come into my life. I was raised Catholic, so I knew who God was, but I didn't have a relationship with Him. So my walk began, and it didn't take off for me right away because I was too big of a knucklehead. I thought I knew everything. But He stuck with me the whole way. And so now, I've been married the 3rd time, but I'm celebrating my 26th wedding anniversary. Yeah. My depression has been put aside. I've been 18 years medication-free. I was told I'd be on meds the rest of my life, and I haven't had a medication in 18 years. The babies that I lost, the one to an abortion and a miscarriage, God replaced with 2 boys in this 3rd marriage, the one where I got saved. And the daughter that I gave up for adoption came back into my life when she turned 21 years old. We found each other at the same time through the same woman while we were living in different states. So God's amazing. He restored everything back to me that I tried to throw away, my stupid life that I was living. But he was so merciful to me. And now I get to travel around to the Bill Glass. I get to use my talents and gifts that I was going to give to Hollywood that just wanted to kick me off to the curb. But now I get to go and sing for people in the institutions. And I can't begin to tell you how it blesses me every time I go into the yard and I see the faces of these folks that they just need Jesus. So I praise God that he's in my life, and I can't wait to go on my next trip. So God bless you, and get Jesus.
Ooh, that's good.